Cheryl Lynch here. I'm here to share my embellished folded fiber books, some of them anyway, and share with you the techniques over a series of classes. For this first class, I want to show you the different books and some of the different ways that I've put them together, and then let's see if I've piqued your interest and you want to come back for the rest of the classes. This was the first book that I made, and I made it at a time when I was a passionate bicyclist. And I still love to bike, but not so much anymore, not after a broken collarbone. But this is the front page of the book, and a good friend of mine had given me a silkscreen of a bicycle, and you can see the prairie points along the top edge of the book. And the next page, and oh, you can also see the beads along the bottom. The next page, I used my printer to print about how I felt when I was riding my bike, and there's a photo of me getting on a ferry with my bike, and just a nice little letters that spell out bike. I'm always looking for good sources of letters. You can see, I'm just going to go back to the first page for a second. These are the foam letters that you can buy at the big box craft stores, and you can whip stitch them onto your little books. Why not? You're not going to wash them. And so these are metal letters. And then, of course, you can make letters from fabric using your font program on your computer. The next page is a page, it was an homage to my hero at the time, Lance Armstrong. We all feel a little bit differently about Lance now, but back then he just was so inspiring to me. And what I did here with one of the embellishments is I took a Livestrong bracelet, cut it and put holes in it, and put it on the page of the book. Why not? If you're not going to wash it, you can put almost anything onto your fabric in your pages. The next page is a quote that I came across by JFK, which is appropriate at this time of year. And nothing compares with the simple pleasure of a bike ride. And I just did some nice little embellishments around the edge. And then I have a series of photos of me with my bike in wonderful places, such as France and Daytona, Ohio, and the Outer Banks with my little bike charm. And then I did 2 pages with a more contemporary feel to them. So I have edgings along here rickrack is along the bottom, beads are along the front, and what I did with this book at the time is I put it in a vertical orientation. And that would be a nice thing to stick in one of like a little skinny wall space you have in your house. The next book I made, I decided to work with a horizontal orientation, and I did it about the houses of Key West. We have a nice little vacation house there, and it's just such a fun place to be. The colors are so bright, you think about all kind of tropical things. So I actually bought a charm pack for the houses and the trees. And then I bought some 1/4 yards of sky fabric. And so I was able to make the book out of a charm pack and just some sky fabric. And these are called conch houses, because if you were born in Key West, you're called a conch, like the conch shell. And along the edges, I bought a necklace along the street from one of the street vendors, a dyed necklace. And I put these little pieces along the edges and the bindings of the book. Now, one thing I want to share with you is I didn't have enough of the width of the fabric to do the back of my book, so I just added a little conch flag to extend it so that it fit. Inside my books, I use something called Peltex, and it's a very heavy-duty stabilizer and interfacing, really, and this makes them able to stand. And we all have, our beds are all filled with quilts, our walls are all filled with quilts, so now it's a nice time to find table space that you can put little quilts on. I made this book to commemorate the wedding of my son, and on the front I have printed a photo of him and his wife, and I use my computer a lot in my design work. Next to my camera and my sewing machine, I would say my computer is my favorite design tool. and you can put almost any fabric through it, and I'll show you. So here's a picture of my son and his wife when they were 2 or 3 years old. And I also used the computer to print the words. Who knew? Who knew when they were 3 years old that they would meet one day and fall in love and get married? And you can see I have the prairie points along the bottom, and I did this little star design across the top. And on the first page, boy meets girl, friendship starts, love blooms, will you marry me? And these are all different types of fabric, and yes, you can put them all through your printer and it will print. And then I have different embellishments, different beads, little letters that have their names, and across the top I have nice little silk prairie points. Along this page, I actually printed my own fabric, and I put their vows on the background. Again, through the computer, I used a different color ink so it looks a little different. So from a distance, you can't really tell it's the vows until you get close up. I like little secrets like that. And here are photos I printed on fabric from the wedding. And my daughter-in-law had decorated the cake table with all these little mylar leaves. So I picked up a few, stuck them in my pocket, knowing that one day I would use them, and here was the perfect opportunity. And on the last page, I printed the announcement that they sent out announcing their wedding, pictures of them on the dock where they got married, and a little pocket with toasting glasses. And again, I used the phone letters, happily ever after, and I quilted it in a grid fashion. So this was their wedding book. This technique is also great to document a trip, and the trip our trip to Israel, I made a little book for, and I decided to give this rounded little shape. It gave it a very ethnic look, and you can see the beads around the top and the beads around it. And it's a nice time to sit and plan and think about your book, and to think about which were the best moments that you wanted to document and put in your book, because there is a limit to how much you can do. So on the first page, this was about our visit to Independence Hall, where Israel was made a state. And again, I used the fabric to print words on it, and I did a lot of printing about how I felt being in the room where these wonderful, brave men just declared it a state. And here, again, I made a little organza pocket, and in this I have some Israeli money, which are called shekels. One night we joined an Israeli family for Shabbat dinner. I fell in love with the mosaics in Israel. They're very historical, very old, and I just love them, and I couldn't wait to get home to figure out a way to make them out of fiber. And then this is a scene of Old Jerusalem, and believe it or not, I brought fabric and fusible web with me, because I knew that every hotel room has an ironing board. And so one night my husband and I just hung out in the room, and I made my little city scene. This is a scene, this brought back memories of childhood for me, because when we were young, Israel was a desert, and we all donated money to buy trees to be planted in Israel to make Israel green. So we actually went to the forest and we planted our own trees. And then this is one of my favorite things to do with travel logs. This is a map of Israel, and on it I added a bunch of the signs and some of the places we went that I didn't document in the regular pages. And one of the cool things I found there were the signs were in 3 languages: English, Hebrew, and Arabic, so that was a lot of fun. This is a book that actually is a fun little book, and is fun and filled with lots of embellishments, and this is actually in a book that I've written that's about embellishing. So if you want to learn more about how to make this particular one, you can look in the book. It also has tips for doing all of the things that I do through all my books: printing on fabric, adding beads, stitching with thread. This is a book that a group of us made for my friend Terry's 60th birthday, And mine was the front cover, and I printed a little saying, 60 and getting better every day. And again, I love those little prairie points, and I love sequins. They're very cool. I like a little bit of bling in my work. Each of us made a page of things that we thought Terry liked, from an elephant to cupcakes to sewing at her Bernina to sunflowers. And then I put the book together and added a bunch of embellishments to it. Behind me is a quilt that I made in the year 2012. And this was kind of like a diary quilt. I called it Wednesday Wanderings. And my goal was to every Wednesday share a block I made on my blog. And it started up in 2012, the New Year's, and ended with the celebration of the end of the year. And again, just all kind of things that I like to do in terms of embellishing. I'll just share a couple with you. This little spring block, this has polymer clay letters on it. Like I said, I'm always searching for ways to add words to my pieces. And you don't always want to print with your computer. So with polymer clay, I used a stamp and stamped letters into each little piece. And that actually was for the first day of spring. And as I was driving that day, I saw 3 little crows crossing in the road, so I knew that had to be on my quilt. This is a photo of a group of ladies that I taught in a workshop. We worked on a Conquer Cancer project to make pillowcases for the children with cancer. And I also enjoy doing 3-dimensional type things. So this was fun, making these little bitty pillowcases and adding them on. So this is the book I'm going to be sharing with you on how I do my technique. So this is about a bicycle trip, of course, to Holland. It was a bike and barge trip, and so my overall theme was Delft, which is the blue and white China, and there's a town called Delft, and we went to the factory. And I will share with you all the different ways that I've made these pages, and in the end, I'll show you how I put the whole book together. So I hope I've interested you enough so that you come back and I can share with you all my techniques and how to make my book. And if you're really interested in learning the different things, this is my actual book that I wrote. It's called So Embellished. And inside are directions for making this book. And it gives you all the techniques of how to do it. So I hope you come back next week. See ya.